So we've all been there. You've hit your approach just short of the green. You've got what looks like a relatively straightforward chip and a putt left to make your par, but you go ahead and you duff that chip shot and you run up a bogey or maybe even a double bogey. Well, today we're going to show you how to play the no duff chip shot that can really help you get up and down from these situations a lot more often. So wouldn't it be great to walk up to these shots with a lot of confidence to know that you're going to get this first shot close and give yourself a chance at making that par? Well, that's exactly what we're going to teach you how to do in this particular video and get rid of those awful duff shots which are demoralizing and help you rack up those high numbers. Now, before we get into that video, I have to say a huge thank you to the Warwickshire Golf and Country Club, which is the golf course that you can see behind me. The golf course where I usually film, the Forest of Arden, is currently in a phased reopening, but it is not yet open. And so I reached out to the Warwickshire Golf and Country Club to ask if I could use their facilities, and they were incredibly accommodating and gave me full use of the golf course. This is a fantastic place. I'm actually, myself and my family, I'm a full member of the Leisure Club, which you can see right in the distance. And they've got two fantastic golf courses here, a par 3 course, a driving range, just an incredible place. So big thank you to the Warwickshire. If you'd like some more information about this golf course, I will put a link to their website down in the description box below. So how are we going to play the no duff chip shot? Well, it really starts with thinking about how we set up to the golf ball and how we execute the shot to really give ourselves the greatest chance of error. What we're really saying here is we can't get rid of those poorer motions that you make where you maybe hit the ground a little bit early or you potentially catch the ball a little bit thin. We can't get rid of those. What we can do is build a technique where they're not penalised, and that's really the key message here. So we're going to be looking at some setup changes and some technique methods, if you like, which are going to really help you with this shot. So the first thing we need to do is understand the bottom of the golf club and the parts of the golf club that are your friend and the parts of the golf club which are maybe not going to help you. We really want to try and avoid the leading edge of the golf club. That's this part here. We really want to try and avoid that. And we really want to try and avoid anything around this heel area, which can really affect how the golf club interacts with the turf. Those are the bits we want to avoid. The bits that we like, the bits that we want to use, would be the trailing edge, so the back of the golf club, and the toe part of the golf club. Those are the things that are going to interact with the ground much more favourably for you. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually set ourselves up much closer to the golf ball than what you would normally be for this shot. I have got myself an 8-iron here. That's because of the situation I'm faced with. You may well be using a pitching wedge, a 9-iron, depending on how much green you've got to work with. You can see here the flag is right at the back of the green. So as I stand in much closer to this golf ball, I can see how the heel of the golf club is raised off the ground slightly, which means that I'm now setting the toe of the golf club down. And as I already said, that's a bit of the golf club that I would like to use. That interacts with the ground very nicely. So standing in much closer is going to really help. Now, as I've got an 8-iron, I would also go down the handle by a small amount. You can see I've probably gone down by an inch. The shorter I can make this golf club, effectively the more control I'm going to have of it and the less likely I am to hit those duff shots. If I was using a lob wedge, a sand wedge, something like that, I might well be using the full length of the club. But as it's an 8-iron, I'm going to be going down the handle slightly. Now, when we look at the face-on view, what I really want to try and avoid is any excessive leaning forward of the club shaft, because what that will do is it will start to expose that leading edge, which is something we want to try and avoid. So I am going to have some shaft lean, but I don't want to have an excessive amount. So what you'll notice is when I take my setup to this golf ball here, there's a small amount of club shaft lean, but just notice how I've not got that golf ball way back in my stance. I haven't got my weight lent way forwards, and I certainly haven't got my hands excessively forwards. What I'm trying to achieve here in this setup is a very neutral setup. By neutral, you'll notice that my shoulders are relatively level. You'll notice that my weight looks relatively balanced. I'm going to be favouring my lead side, but not excessively. And you'll notice that I've got no excessive tilts in my upper body. When we start moving that golf ball too far back and we start pushing the handle too far forward, we start to create some really unnatural shapes in our body, which can really make interaction with the ground very difficult. So by standing in closer, by going down the handle, and by achieving a setup with minimal shaft lean, we're starting to create a situation where we're going to be using the right part of the golf club to interact with the ground. What we're then going to be doing is looking at how the golf club approaches the golf ball. A shallow approach is going to give you a greater margin for error. If we start having that golf club approaching very steeply, any contact with the ground really saps the energy from the golf club, and that's when we hit those real duff shots. If I have a shallow approach, then I can contact the ground as I'm doing here, and the golf club will just continue on its journey. Yes, it's going to have some speed taken out of it, but not excessively. So the way that we achieve this nice shallow approach is to make sure that we move the handle of the golf club by using the body rotation. So I'm really focusing on what my body's doing and how that moves the handle. It's quite instinctive to use the wrists because I can quite easily move the golf club far enough that I am able to hit the ball the right distance, but I don't have to use any body when I do this. This is going to increase your chances of duffing that golf shot. So we have to make sure that we are using our body rotation, the handle of the golf club is moving, and I'm using a very, very small pivot of my body to control the movement of the golf club. So we've got the golf club interacting with the ground as we want it to, or the right part of the golf club. We've got our hands a little bit further down the handle for a bit of control. We've got a nice neutral setup. We've got a relatively shallow approach. We're starting to create some really good sort of bases here for some nice chip shots. The final thing we're going to get to focus here is what is your intent? Okay, what I mean by that is what are you trying to do when you hit this shot? Well, certainly for me, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the golf club that's resting on the ground to make contact with the ground pretty much where that golf ball is. So I'm actually trying to actively make contact with the ground. Now for many of you, that's something you're trying to avoid. You're trying to miss the ground. If you're trying to miss the ground, that's when we get the thin shots. So poor setups can give us the heavy duff shots. Intent being incorrect can give us those thin shots. So let's go ahead and hit one. We've got a nice neutral setup. And we're just going to go ahead. I'm going to have to put this out to the right a little bit because there's going to be a little bit of break on this. Okay, and that should break around to the left. And if the distance is pretty good, then I wouldn't be unhappy. That's given me probably 3 or 4 feet left for my par. So let's hit another one. And this time, I'm actually going to intentionally try and catch the ground a little bit before the golf ball. So we're not expecting the same result of that as that, but we should see that it's not terrible. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same shot, but just try and catch the ground a little bit before the ball. Okay, definitely caught that a little heavy. But you can see actually it's still a very, very good result. It's a little bit shorter, so it's maybe 5 feet away. But for not a great execution, that's a very, very good result. And that's exactly what we're trying to build in with this golf shot. Like I said a moment ago, we're not going to get you to hit every single chip shot perfect. What we are trying to do is create a greater margin for error so your poorer shots aren't punished as extreme. So let's hit one more. I'm going to give it out towards where those golf balls are, let it break round to the left. And that one should be pretty good as well, a little bit left of the flag, but again, I wouldn't be unhappy with that from this situation. So if we can start to think about how we set up the golf ball, we can start to think about which part of the golf club is interacting with the ground, we can start to think a little bit about how we move the golf club, and we can get our intent correct, you can start to chip the ball closer. And what we're looking for here is your average chip shot to be closer. Your poor shots are going to be much, much better. And that's exactly what we're aiming for by using this technique. So I really hope that helps. Like I said, right back at the start, huge thank you to the Warwickshire Golf and Country Club for letting me use this fantastic golf course. Really hope there was some information there which you can use next time you play. Thanks for watching. Usual stuff is down below. There's a comments box down there. There's a like button. And also, if you are not a subscriber, I would love you to be so. It's absolutely free. I'd love you to join the community because I really believe that if you want to play your best golf, these videos can help you do that. Thank you for watching. We'll see you back here again soon.